if I were trying to establish some level of communication, children are pretty benign.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know our military generally shoots first and asks questions later. So, like, if I were, and I'm just speculating, but if I were to make any kind of peaceful contact, I probably would land at a school too,
Right.
because you get shot up landing anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You might get a slingshot or something at a school.
Yeah, you might get a
A
slingshot at a
kickball
school.
in the window,
Yeah,
but you
know
can
what I mean?
live.
Like, yeah.
Was
So,
there contact in that case? Like, was there
no.
any type of communication?
Well, when I was there, I went on a big radio show in Australia talking about that case, and so one person called in and it's like, "Oh, there was an entity outside," but that's the only account. No, generally speaking, no, that was not contact. But landing,
Interesting.
and a good one too. I mean, can you imagine? And of course, the men in black or the men in suits showed up on that case and threatened the science teacher who just passed, Mr. Greenwood. And I got Greenwood to come forward for the first time in history in the phenomenon. And then subsequently to that, Ross Coulthart did an interview with him. And thank God, because he's no longer with us. But he said, yeah, they came and threatened him big time.
In what way? Do you
Just keep your mouth shut. If you want to keep your job, we're going to destroy you. Like, we're going to say you're drunk, you're drinking with just all the above. Just threatened him. And he didn't talk for 50 years.
Wow.
50 years.
And these are American men in black guys?
Sometimes, like, for instance, with Virginia, there were a Brazilian-speaking person with two other foreigners that they assumed were Americans that didn't open their mouths. And so, but it would probably be at the direction of the American. I mean, they certainly, are in control of the situation much more than, an exception with China and Russia, but the Americans pretty much dominate the global. The reason why I know this is because I've interviewed people from Tehran, I've interviewed people in Africa, South, all over the world. I can give countless cases. And I'm like, Americans again?
Yeah.
Like, what? How did you even hear about it? Like, Tehran, Iran was in 1975 with General Parviz Jafari, told me, and I flew him into Washington, D.C. to testify at the National Press Club back in 2007. And he was like, yeah, and then the Americans showed up the next morning. And the sighting happened like 2 a.m. Wow. How did they hear about that so quickly? How did they get there? Like, what were they doing? Americans?
What do you make of that? Like, I mean, granted, Tehran in 75, it's like pre-revolution, so it's probably easier to go.
Well, yeah, but they were also in Belgium in 89. I interviewed the Belgian general, General de Brouwer, Air Force general in Belgium. And he's like, oh, yes. And then, the Americans showed up and they wanted the radar reports, the radar tapes. And he's like, okay, well, give me an official request and I'll give you copies. They wouldn't do that because there's a paper trail. But it was like, oh, they're investigating that case too. Like, they're there.
What would happen?
Bentwaters, England, 1980. I interviewed the deputy base commander, Colonel Charles Halt. I also interviewed the general on the base. And he's like, yeah, this plane flew in, American plane flew in, sanitized, exposed the witnesses to sodium pentothal.
What is that?
It's some kind of truth serum. And the deputy base commander was like, I don't know what the hell this plane came in. They had control of the situation. They screwed with my men. They did, took whatever evidence they had. The landing print, like, evidently they took photographs. Those were gone. Like, oh, they didn't turn out, But so they have a global footprint.
A truth serum. Have you looked into that before?
Well, I was just telling you what was told to me by the guy that was there. He just said that his men were given this truth serum, I guess, trying to find out what they really saw. I don't know.
Have you ever looked into this substance? What you said it was sodium?
Sodium pentothal is what I heard, yeah.
And have you ever looked into that?
No.
It seems like a wild thing.
Yeah, what does it say?
Well known in pop culture under the name sodium pentothal, truth serum. Efficacy is questioned.
Truth serum.
Wow. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. That's what Colonel Charles Halt told me. Yeah.
We should try some of that. Get some of that on the pod. Creases, run to the corner store.
Like, don't believe in UFOs. It's all nonsense, okay?
Get some sodium pentothal here immediately. We're going to be ripping lines, dude. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you heard of a case of any type of anomalous craft in a non-friendly country, like a North Korea or like a post-revolution Iran? And what is the American intervention in that situation?
I don't know, to answer your question. I know there are cases in China, and I never heard of any Americans being there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't hear of it. Doesn't mean that's not the case. I didn't hear of it.
Sure.
I don't know if they have a deal with them or not, but landing case, Meng Jiao Gua, in the Black Forest, I think, and it happened the same year that that the landing case happened in Africa, and the same message.
Interesting.
Yeah, being better stewards of the environment.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions on that,
Yeah.
but first I want to ask. It's interesting that Spielberg is kind of the one that like low key tipped you off to the
Yeah,
Zimbabwe
yeah,
case,
yeah.
and this was,
90s.
one explanation is
Yeah.
right. He's like doing this film E.T. and he's discussing extraterrestrial stuff, and at this point there's been many extraterrestrial type movies. So
Let me say one thing real quickly about
please.
Spielberg that's relevant to what you're telling me right now.
Yeah.
Spielberg did Close Encounters of Third Kind. Guess who's in that movie? Dr. Jalen Hynek, who investigated UFOs in an official capacity for the United States Air Force, has a cameo in that movie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was Spielberg basically saying, and those files came to, even down Richard Dreyfuss' face being burned, that came right out of Project Blue Book files.
Right.
So Spielberg worked with the guy that knew,
Right.
and he put him in the movie as a little,
little wink.
Yeah.
There's also reference to like Jacques Vallée, like his characters.
Yeah, of course. It was
in the film, like
absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you.
but this is a guy that is well researched in the field, right? Which makes sense if you're making multiple movies about
Spielberg
this.
has Dr. Hynek in his movie. Like that's basically like wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
What do you make of like predictive programming in film and TV? You're familiar with this term? The idea of like putting things out into pop culture so as to either
gauge the public awareness
to try to
reaction.
placate the public, to try to make things seem crazy in science fiction, or to maybe get people prepared for things. This is things I've heard in like sort of conspiracy world that people have talked about, like, oh, Men in Black is a way to kind of discredit things, that when we're saying Men in Black right now, people go, you mean Will Smith?
Yeah.
Like talking about like a hunched over little alien guy. Like it's so absurd because we've seen it in the
Yeah,
movies.
that's why I don't like using the word Men in Black. I mean, I say it, but it's because it's got baggage.
But I'm curious, like, if you have a perspective on, do these guys do research on films and pull stuff from reality to make great movies? Are they doing the movies intentionally in cooperation with intelligence services to try to inject things into public consciousness? I'm curious if you've thought about that.
Yeah. So back in 2 consecutive weekends in July of 1952, you had, because people always go, well, if UFOs are real, why don't they land on the White House lawn? I'm like, they almost did it in 52. I don't know if you know about that case, but it was so intense and so many people witnessed, and they scrambled military jets. This is over the Capitol, 1952, 2 consecutive weekends in July. You can Google it, UFOs over D.C., 1952. They had a press conference about it. General John Sanford got up in front of the world. It was the biggest press conference since the end of World War II. It was huge. And it was a big deal. Like, I mean, UFOs were buzzing the Capitol big time, right? And they were shaking in their boots like, oh my gosh, what are we about to make what's going on here? And we can't really deny it because too many people witnessed it. They scrambled military jets. They actually given authorization to shoot. Like, it was a big deal. I cover it in The Phenomenon. And the Air Force didn't know what to do. So they convened a panel. It was called the Robertson Panel. Just probably January of the following year, 53. And basically consulted with the CIA. It's like, all right, what do we do here? What do we tell the public? How do we deal with this problem, basically? And this panel basically made a number of determinations. But one of the things they said, look, if we can't deny the existence or there's too much compelling data, what we can do is we can adopt, and referring to the United States Air Force, we can adopt a policy of ridicule. So you make fun of those who claim to have seen them. And that really stuck. I mean, it was a very effective campaign. And I got to tip my hat to them as much as I'm upset about it. Wow, that worked, because what's so funny about an airline, pilot reporting something that just doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, all right, these things happen, whatever. But to make fun of them, there's no incentive or career enhancing move to come forward. Particularly an airline wouldn't want to be associated to pilots that see UFOs. It's not good branding.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So that was a very effective campaign. And as far as like movies being done that can gauge the public interest or awareness, I mean, I had a lot of people when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, they were like people that were witnesses, like they felt validated. Like, oh my God, that's exactly what I saw. Well, that happened to me. Is like, wow. And honestly, I'm not exactly sure what Spielberg's objective was, or was he? I mean, he certainly was working with government insiders in the sense that Dr. Hynek, who investigated in official capacity, participated in that movie and was a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Jacques Vallée, his character was portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's a lot of truth in that movie. Lots of truth, and it was tremendously popular. But was the government behind it? I don't know. I don't know.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, but I
guess.
remember hearing about, it might have been Men in Black. You could look it up, but they basically said to the director or the producers, like, if you mention Area 51, you're no longer going to have any of our support. Or Roswell with the bodies, Area 51. It was like, we're not going to cooperate with you at all.
Interesting.
And they did anyway. Yeah, I heard about it. I think it was Men in Black, but it could have been another one. But anyway, you can research.